It was a dreary Tuesday evening in October, the rain tapping relentlessly against my umbrella as I stood at the bus stop near my office. My name's Alex, 35 years old, married to Sarah for 8 years. We've built a solid life together, a cozy house in the suburbs, a golden retriever named Max, and dreams of starting a family soon. I work as an accountant, a job that's steady but not exciting, while Sarah teaches at the local elementary school, always coming home with funny stories about her students. Life had been predictable, almost routine, until that moment changed everything. I was scrolling through my phone, checking the weather forecast, when an older man shuffled up to the bus shelter. He looked worn out, mid-60s, gray hair peeking from under a faded baseball cap, a jacket that had seen better days. He didn't say a word at first, just leaned against the glass and stared into the rain. I barely noticed him until he turned to me, his voice low and gravelly, and said, "Your wife's at the motel every Tuesday." My breath caught in my throat. I glanced around, thinking he must be talking to someone else, but the stop was empty except for us. "Excuse me," I managed, forcing a nervous laugh, hoping it was a misunderstanding. He didn't flinch, his eyes locking onto mine. "The Bluebird Motel, out on Route 9. Every Tuesday afternoon. Thought you should know." Before I could process it, he turned and walked away, vanishing into the misty rain like a ghost. The bus pulled up, but I stood there, my mind spinning. Who was he? How'd he know me? And, most terrifying of all, was he telling the truth about Sarah? That night, I got home in a daze. Sarah was in the kitchen, humming softly as she stirred a pot of spaghetti, my favorite. She greeted me with a warm smile, kissed my cheek, and asked about my day. Everything seemed normal, her laughter filling the room as she recounted a child's drawing of her as a superhero. But those words kept echoing in my head. Every Tuesday. I watched her closely, searching for any sign of guilt, any hint she was hiding something. My stomach churned, but I said nothing. Dinner felt like a lie I couldn't swallow. The next few days were a blur of unease. I couldn't shake the stranger's words, replaying them in my mind like a broken record. Was he just some crazy old man playing a cruel joke? Or did he know something I didn't? I started piecing together Sarah's schedule, focusing on Tuesdays. She usually got home around 6 p.m., same as me, but now I remembered her mentioning lesson planning or staff meetings a few times. I never questioned it. Why would I? She was my wife, my rock. But doubt had taken root, and it was growing fast. By Thursday, I was a mess. I couldn't concentrate at work, my fingers fumbling over the calculator as my boss asked if I was okay. I mumbled something about a headache and buried myself in spreadsheets, but my thoughts were elsewhere. That night, guilt gnawed at me as I waited for Sarah to shower. When I heard the water running, I grabbed her phone from the kitchen counter. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her texts, messages to her mom about groceries, a group chat with her teaching colleagues. Nothing suspicious. Then I checked her calendar. There was planning blocked off every Tuesday from 3 to 5 p.m. No details, just that vague word. My heart sank. Was this her alibi? I put the phone back, my mind racing. I didn't want to believe it, but the stranger's voice kept haunting me. Over the weekend, I told Sarah I had errands to run and drove out to the Bluebird Motel on Route 9. The place was a dump, flickering neon signs, cracked pavement, a vibe that screamed secrecy. I parked across the street, watching cars come and go. Shady figures slipped in and out, and I wondered if Sarah was one of them. I sat there for over an hour, rain streaking my windshield, feeling like a fool. No sign of her, no answers, just a growing knot in my chest. By Sunday night, I was determined. I had to know the truth, even if it broke me. The next Tuesday, I'd follow her. My marriage might depend on it. The following Tuesday felt like it dragged on forever. I barely slept the night before, my mind churning with what I might find. At work, I made excuses to leave early, claiming a doctor's appointment. My boss nodded, but I could tell he wasn't convinced. I didn't care. I had one goal. I drove to the Bluebird Motel, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with tension as I parked in the lot, hidden behind a rusted van. I didn't know what I expected to see. Sarah's car, her with someone else, something to confirm my worst fears. At 3:30 p.m., my heart stopped. Her familiar blue sedan pulled into the lot. There she was, stepping out in her usual cardigan and jeans, her teacher bag slung over her shoulder. She looked so normal, like she was heading to a meeting, not a seedy motel. I ducked lower, watching as she walked straight to room 12, knocked, and slipped inside after someone opened the door. I couldn't see who it was. My view was blocked by the angle, but my stomach twisted into knots. Was this it? Was she meeting someone? The minutes ticked by, each one heavier than the last, as I sat there, torn between rage and disbelief. An hour later, she emerged. Alone. She glanced around, adjusting her bag, then got back in her car and drove off. I followed at a distance, my pulse pounding in my ears. She went straight home, pulling into the garage like it was any other day. That evening, she was her usual self, cooking dinner, playing with Max, asking about my appointment. I forced a smile, but inside I was a wreck. She wasn't acting guilty, but that didn't erase what I'd seen. Who was in that room? Why the secrecy? I couldn't confront her yet, not without more proof. The doubt was eating me alive, and I knew I had to dig deeper. After seeing Sarah at the motel, I couldn't pretend everything was fine. Sleep evaded me, and meals tasted like ash. I replayed the scene in my head, her knocking on that door, disappearing inside. Who was waiting for her? A lover? The thought made me nauseous. By Wednesday, I knew I couldn't handle this alone. Confronting her without solid evidence might destroy us. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. I found Mike online, a grizzled ex-cop with a no-nonsense website promising discretion. We met at a dingy coffee shop downtown. I spilled everything. The stranger, the motel, my suspicions, while he sipped black coffee and took notes. Sounds like a classic case, he said, his voice rough from years on the job. But let's not jump to conclusions. I'll tail her next Tuesday, get photos, run plates if needed. It'll cost you, but you'll get answers. I handed over the deposit, feeling a mix of relief and shame. Was I betraying my marriage or saving it? The weight was agony. I went through the motions at home, watching TV with Sarah, walking Max, talking about her day. She noticed my distraction, asked if I was stressed from work. Yeah, just deadlines. I lied, hating myself. Meanwhile, I obsessed over possibilities. What if she was cheating? How long had it been going on? Or maybe it was something innocent, like a surprise for me. But the motel screamed otherwise. Tuesday came, and Mike called that evening. She's not alone in there, he said flatly. My world tilted. But it's not what you think, no guy. She's meeting a woman, late 20s, looks scared, always checking over her shoulder. They talked for an hour, then split. I got the plate. Belongs to Elisa Carter. No record, but I can dig more. Relief mixed with confusion. Not cheating, but what? Drugs? Blackmail? I thanked Mike and hung up, my resolve hardening. It was time to confront Sarah. That night, as we sat on a couch, I took a deep breath. Sarah, what's happening at the Bluebird Motel every Tuesday? Her face drained of color, and tears welled up. How did you find out? Sarah's tears spilled over as she stared at me, her hands trembling in her lap. How did you find out? She whispered again, her voice breaking. I felt a surge of guilt for spying, but the need for answers overpowered it. Just tell me the truth, I said, my tone softer than I intended. She took a shaky breath, wiped her eyes, and began. It's not what you think, Alex, she said, her words tumbling out. I'm not cheating. I've been helping someone, a former student, Lisa Carter. She's 27 now, and she's been trying to escape an abusive ex. He's dangerous, with a history of violence. She reached out to me a few months ago, desperate. I couldn't turn her away. She was one of my kids. Her voice cracked as she explained how Lisa had been hiding, moving between cheap motels like the Bluebird to stay off his radar. Every Tuesday, Sarah brought her food, clothes, and cash, trying to help her save enough to leave town. I listened, stunned. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my anger shifting to confusion. She looked down, ashamed. I was scared. He's threatened anyone who helps her, and I didn't want you involved, or worse, hurt. I thought I could handle it alone, keep it quiet. I'm so sorry. The weight of her secret hit me. Relief flooded in. She wasn't betraying me, but it was replaced by worry. What if this ex found her? Found us? We sat in silence, the TV humming in the background. I pulled her into a hug, feeling her sob against my shoulder. We'll figure this out together, I promised, though my mind raced. Who was this ex? How long could Lisa stay safe? And then there was a stranger at the bus stop. How did he fit in? That night, I lay awake, the pieces swirling. Sarah's honesty had eased my heart, but a new fear took its place. This wasn't over. The next morning, I woke up with a new resolve. Sarah's confession had lifted a weight off my chest, but the stranger's words still haunted me. Who was he, and why'd he targeted me at the bus stop? I couldn't shake the feeling that he was connected to Lisa's situation. Over breakfast, I told Sarah about him, his gray cap, his gravelly warning. Her eyes widened. You think he's watching her too? She asked, her voice trembling. I nodded. Maybe. We need to find out. I decided to return to the bus stop every evening after work, hoping to spot him again. The first few days were fruitless. Rain-soaked waits with no sign of the man. My colleagues noticed my distraction, and I brushed it off with vague excuses about personal projects. At home, Sarah and I talked late into the night, planning how to help Lisa relocate safely. She'd saved enough to move, but we needed to be careful. The ex, a guy named Mark with a rap sheet for assault, was still a threat. On Friday, at 6:15 p.m., I saw him. He stood across the street, same cap, same jacket, lighting a cigarette. My pulse raced as I crossed over, dodging traffic. Hey, I shouted, my voice sharper than intended. He turned, startled, then recognized me. What do you want? He growled. Why did you tell me about my wife? I demanded. He hesitated, then sighed, his shoulders slumping. I'm Lisa's father, he said quietly. I've been keeping an eye on her, making sure she's safe. I saw your wife with her, and I had to know if you were part of it, or against her. I stood there stunned. He apologized, explaining his desperation to protect Lisa from Mark. He'd mistaken Sarah's secrecy for something sinister and acted on instinct. Relief washed over me, but questions lingered. How much did he know about Mark's whereabouts? I thanked him and walked home, my mind buzzing. Sarah and I had an ally now, but the danger wasn't gone. With a stranger, Lisa's father, whose name was Tom, now in the picture, things moved quickly. Tom was a retired mechanic, rough around the edges but fiercely protective. He'd been tracking Lisa's movements discreetly, piecing together her escapes from Mark. That bastard's been sniffing around, Tom warned during our first meeting at a quiet park bench. He's got friends in low places, might even know about the motel. Sarah and I exchanged worried glances. We couldn't risk waiting any longer. We hatched a plan. Sarah contacted Lisa, arranging a final meeting at the Bluebird, but this time with backup. Tom would watch from afar, and I'd drive Lisa to a bus station afterward, where she'd head to a cousin in another state. We pooled resources, Sarah's savings, my emergency fund, even Tom chipping in for a burner phone and fake ID. The night before, Sarah and I lay in bed, holding hands. What if Mark shows up? She whispered. I squeezed her hand. We'll handle it. Together. Tuesday arrived, tense as a coiled spring. I parked nearby while Sarah went in. Tom texted updates from his spot. All clear. An hour later, Sarah emerged with Lisa, a fragile woman with haunted eyes, clutching a duffel bag. We hustled her into my car, but as we pulled out, a black truck screeched into the lot. Mark. He jumped out, yelling, his face twisted in rage. Tom intercepted him, shouting for us to go. I floored it, heart pounding, as Lisa cried in the back seat. We made it to the station, got her on a bus to safety. Later, Tom called. Mark had backed off after a scuffle, but the police were involved now. A restraining order was in the works. Back home, Sarah and I collapsed, exhausted but united. The ordeal had tested us, but we'd come through stronger. Yet one loose end remained, ensuring Mark stayed away for good. The days after Lisa's escape were a whirlwind. We heard from her a week later. A short, grateful text from her new number in Ohio. "I'm safe. Thank you for everything," it read, followed by a shaky, smiley face. Sarah cried when she saw it, and I felt a weight lift. Tom called too, confirming Mark had been picked up by police after violating the restraining order. He was facing charges, and with Lisa's testimony, the odds were against him staying free long. Tom thanked us gruffly, promising to visit her once things settled. We'd forged an unlikely bond through this chaos. At home, life slowly returned to normal. The Bluebird Motel faded into a memory, though I still flinched when passing Route 9. Sarah and I grew closer, our trust rebuilt through shared trials. We started talking about kids again, laughing over names as Max sprawled across the living room floor. One evening, as the sun set, I took her hand. "We made it through," I said. She smiled, her eyes warm. Together. But the bus stop stranger lingered in my thoughts. That rainy night had turned my world upside down, only to reveal a deeper truth about love and courage. I never saw Tom there again, but I like to think he's out there, watching over Lisa. As for us, we learned to face the unknown head-on. The next Tuesday, instead of secrets, we planned a date night. Dinner, a movie, just us. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours, stronger than ever. And as I looked at Sarah, laughing at my terrible cooking, I knew we'd handle whatever came next together.